Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David and in this video I will show you how to play the game Very Bad Lands. This comes in two boxes. One box is for 3 up to 6 players, but you can mix and match the boxes to play up to 10 players. The game is the same for both boxes, just other types of dinosaurs with their effects and some other disaster cards. In this game all players are dinosaurs. We have 3 lives. Each round we will play 1 disaster card and the player who played the lowest number will lose a life. First player to lose all of his lives is out of the game and all other players have 1. Although playing the lowest number doesn't have to mean you will lose a life, because your dinosaur has special effects, but also the disaster cards have some special effects that maybe protect your number or makes another player the target. So please let me show you how it's played. And let's start with the T-Rex one. There's a nice player aid for the players to see how the round goes and what the disaster card effects are. We have these dinosaurs who all have their own special power, and you keep track of your lives by rotating the card. So now you have 3 lives. If you lose a life, you'll rotate it. Now you have 2 lives. Then you rotate it again, and then you only have 1 life. And if you lose your last life, all other players have 1. At the start of the game, each player will receive 2 dinosaurs. You pick one to play with, and the other ones go back into the box, and this will be your dinosaur for this game. You pick the first player and then you're ready to go. The first player will gather the disaster cards, will give them a good shuffle, and then deals out 1 card face down to each player. The remaining cards will be a draw pile and the top card will be open. It's a discard pile and it is called the river. Everybody can have a look at their card. And I'll show you the gameplay first, and then we go to the special abilities, because then they make more sense. But keep in mind, the higher your number, the better, because the lowest player number will lose a life. This number is not taken into account at the reveal phase. So when it's your turn, and we're going to play clockwise, you can do 3 things. Or you do nothing, you keep your card and it's up to the next player. Or you can swap your card with the river. So I have only a 3 and here's a number 6. Well, let me swap cards. Now it's the next player. Or I can swap my card with the player to my left. So I'll give my card to the player to the left and I'll take his or her card. And that was not such a good idea. But that's the only thing you do in your turn. Keep your card, swap it with the river, or swap it with the player to your left. Although the last player cannot swap with me, so instead that player can swap his or her card with the top card of the disaster deck. Or keep the card or swap it with the river. And once all players have kept or swapped their card, we're going to the reveal phase. All players will reveal the card. And the lowest number will now lose a life. And then we're going to play a new round. So this player becomes the first player. All disaster cards will be collected, shuffled and dealt out again. But we're not there yet, because the fun of the game is now all the special abilities. So this player has the lowest number, number 1. Should there be the number 11 card, the meteorite, in play, then this card would be worth 12 points. Unfortunately for this player, that card is not in play. However, in the river is this symbol. And this means the lowest card is protected. So this player is safe and cannot lose a life. So we go to look who has the second lowest number. Oops, that is me. I have number 2. So I am about to lose a life. The other cards don't have any special ability that applies for now. So I lose a life. And that's the fun of the game. Once all cards are revealed, you're going to check all special abilities and all special rule changes that makes somebody else maybe lose a life instead of the one with the lowest number. So let's see what all these events do. That will make more sense now that you know how to play the game. So this card is value only number 1, the lowest card. However, should the number 11 card be in play, the knight card, then this card's value is number 12. And this can be active because it's either face up at a player or face up in the river. So your number 1 doesn't have to be the lowest number at the reveal phase. Number 2, no special ability. Number 3, we just saw the lowest card is protected. So when you play this card, you hope it's your own card. When this card is added to the river, number 4, so when you add it to the river because of a swap maybe, all players who have a card value of 6 or higher has to make a sound or knock the table or roar like your dinosaur, so you know where the high numbers are. When this card is added to the river, you will add another card, the top card from the deck, to the river, so there are now 2 cards to the river, and so more effects in play maybe. Number 6, no special ability. Number 7, when this card is face up somewhere, the players with the 2 lowest values each lose a life, so not only 1 player but 2 players. Number 8 protects cards number 5, 6 and 7, so they cannot lose a life. Number 9 is a disease, number 10 is the predator card, and number 11 is the night card. This one makes the card 1 worth 12 points, and some dino powers are triggered. And all these keywords may appear on some of the dinosaur cards. So those are the disaster cards. Now for the completion of this video, let's see what the dinosaurs do. The thief can swap a card with anyone who decided to keep their card. So not just your neighbor, but anyone who already did this turn and kept this card. The effect on the disaster card of this player does not activate. Instead of swapping a card, this player can reveal the card and then add 4 to the value. So you know the value of that card at the reveal phase. This player can at any time during the swapping phase stop everything and just go straight to the reveal phase. But that player can do so only once per game. This player gets 2 disaster cards at the distribution of these cards. Gets to keep 1 and puts the other on the bottom of the deck. This player, instead of swapping, says I'm gonna hunt. If any player has the predator card at the end of the round, just during the reveal phase, that player will lose a life, even if it's not the lowest number, because the T-Rex hunts it. This player gets a +4 bonus on his card at the reveal phase. However, if it's night, so the number 11 card was played, then that player has to subtract 2 points from the value. If the total value of the river is 11 or more, this player is protected. If this player has the number 1 card at the reveal phase and doesn't lose a life, instead it will gain a life, although you cannot go above 3 lives. When this player loses a life, all dinosaurs, all players who are protected also lose a life. This player can, instead of swapping cards, put 1 card from the river on the bottom of the disaster deck, so remove it from the round. This player can do a swap, but if he's not satisfied with the swap, he can take his card back. And this one, if this player loses a life, it will draw the top card of the event deck, have a look at it and remove it from the game. So the other players don't know which card is removed. Those are all the dinosaurs and all disaster cards from the T-Rex box of Very Bad Lands. Well, let's do the Brachio version as well. Some cards are still the same, but there are some difference. Number 9, in this case, so the player who has the highest value loses a life. The flood, add 1 card to the river if this card is added to the river. Again, number 6 or higher has to make a sound when this one is added to the river. This one still protects the card with the lowest number. And this one is different. If this player doesn't lose a life, he will gain a life. And we have the number 1 card that is worth 12 points if the night card is played. And then, just to complete it all the new dinosaurs. Although this one we already saw at the previous deck. This player can refuse when somebody wants to swap. Then that player has to swap with the top card of the disaster deck. This player can once per game remove itself from the round and put his card on the bottom of the disaster deck, which is of course a very nice special ability if multiple players have only 1 life left. If this player loses a life, the player who has the number 7 card also loses a life, the hurricane. This player starts the game with 4 lives, but should it lose a life with the card of number 4 or below, it will lose an additional life, so 2 lives. This player will receive 2 extra dinosaur cards at the start of the game, and at the reveal phase it can remove 1 card back in the box to add 3 points to the value of that card, and so you can do that 2 times during the game. This player can swap with his neighbor, and then, if he didn't like the result, swap the card he just swapped with the river, so an extra swap. If this player has the number 3 card, it will be worth 13 points, but if this player has the predator card, number 10, that value will be 0. Here we have Scrat. If he has the number 1 card, he is protected. This player on his turn can add the top card from the disaster deck to the river, so more cards over there and more special effects in play maybe. This player can, instead of swapping with his neighbor, call for the night card, so if a player has the night card, those players swap. If no one has that card, he can search for it in the draw deck and swap with the disaster deck and puts his card on the bottom of the deck. This player can on his turn look at the disaster card of 1 dinosaur who played before him. And finally we have this one. Every time this player loses life, he gets to draw an additional dinosaur card and gain its power. And those are all the disaster cards and all the dinosaur cards you can find in both boxes of Very Bad Lands. And that is how you play this fast survival card game, Very Bad Lands Survive the Chaos. If it's the same player who loses his life every round, it will be a very short game, but hopefully you can play some more rounds to have more tension. And rounds are very quick but chaotic, because every time you're going to check all the effects that are in play, both from the dinosaur and maybe special effects from the disaster cards. If you have any questions about Very Bad Lands, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. My name is David, thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.